This is learning target 4, day 1. We are going to be adding and subtracting integers, which we've already had some practice on with the speed skills, so hopefully this lesson won't be too bad. Remember, for adding we have 2 rules. If the numbers have the same sign, then you add them together and keep the sign. So I like to think about money when I'm adding integers. If you have money and you earn more, then you add them together. Or if you're in debt and you borrow more, you are increasing your debt, so you're adding your 2 debts together. If they have opposite signs, then you subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger number. So think, if you have money and you spend some, you subtract. Or if you are in debt and you start to pay it off, you're subtracting the amount you paid off from the debt that you had initially. And subtracting integers, we have 1 rule: add the opposite, and then go back and follow the 2 adding rules. Alright, so as I mentioned, learning target number 4, day 1, I can add and subtract integers as our goal. We're going to start off with some adding. Actually, what I'm going to do is show you the 3 problems we're going to take a look at. I would like you to pause the video, see if you can remember your adding rules, simplify these yourself, and then start the video to watch me go over them. So for -5 plus 7, they have opposite signs, so I will subtract them. 7 minus 5 is 2. The larger number is 7, and it is positive. So if I have $7, or actually let's start at the beginning. If I borrowed $5 and then I earn 7, once I pay off my $5 debt, I have $2 left for myself. For B, we have 2 negative numbers, so I will add them together. If I borrow $26 from my mom and I borrow $19 from a friend, I am adding my debts together. One thing I like to do when I have 2-digit numbers is I actually add the tens place first. So I've got 20 plus 10 for the 26 and the 19. So here's my little thought process here. Here's what I'm doing in my head. And then I add my ones digits together. So 6 plus 9. 20 plus 10 is 30. 6 plus 9 is 15. 30 plus 15 is 45. So I had -$45. On C, 34 plus -51, we have opposite signs similar to A, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract those numbers, keeping the sign of the bigger number. So 51 minus 34. So I do something similar with the subtracting that I do with the adding. I'm going to do 50 minus 30 plus 1 minus 4. Make sure you grab the ones digit from the larger number, not just the larger ones digit. So be a little careful if you're using this. 50 minus 30 is 20. 1 minus 4 is -3. 20 plus -3 is 17. Going back to my original problem, 51 was negative, so my answer is -17. Subtracting, we have 1 rule for subtracting: add the opposite. So add -14 and then follow our adding rules. They have opposite signs, so I will subtract. 14 minus 9 is 5. 14 is the larger number and it is negative. So if I had $9 and I spent 14, for example, on a credit card, I now have -$5. So be careful when you use credit cards. What I'm going to have you do, what I should have had you done, is pause the video, try the next 2. Think about some of those rules that I just gave you with the double digits, and then restart the video and hear my explanation. Alright, so again, our 1 subtracting rule is add the opposite. So now I have 2 negative numbers, -18 plus -23. So I will add them together. Again, this is how I add 2-digit numbers in my head. I'm writing it down so you can see my thought process. So the 10 from the 18 plus 20 from the 23 and 8 plus 3. So that gives me 30 plus 11, which is 41, and my answer was negative because both my numbers were negative. Second one, same process, and they're both negative, similar to B. So I'm going to add them together. It's 30 plus 40 plus 7 plus 5. 30 plus 40 gives me 70. 7 plus 5 is 12. So I have 82, but both my numbers were negative. So this is a negative 82. We've got one last example, so I'll just let this one video run a little long. One chilly morning in January, the temperature was negative 14. By noon, it had warmed up to 3 degrees. What was the change in temperature? Most of you can probably look at these two numbers, and especially with something as recognizable as temperature, you might be able to figure this out without going through the process, but I am going to go through the process anyway. So we take the temperature that it warmed up to, and we subtract the original temperature. So you can think about if you had positive numbers, if it's 80 degrees at noon and it was only 70 degrees in the morning, you would do 80 minus 70 to figure out the change. So here we've got 3 minus negative 14, so I will add the opposite. 3 plus 14 gives us a 17-degree change. And finally, the U try. So make sure you jot these down, try these before you walk in the door tomorrow, and I hope you have a great evening.